is that there's a lot of things going on, and many people have such a small view of what's happening in the world. They don't know what's happening. And then how do you, it's just to help us to know to pray, to know to seek. In America, in the United States of America, this week is Thanksgiving. I pray that you focus on things to be thankful for. And it's alarming, my brothers and sisters. It is alarming. And I'm going to get into it even more just looking at the news, and might say a little bit on it. You know, I can't just read the news and not give any comment. But it's alarming how many families are fighting, cussing each other out, excluding one another because of who's vaccinated, not vaccinated, and you better not come on my house, folks, cussing each other out. I have had no less than 15 personal reports of individuals who are distressed because of all of the drama that's happening in their families. Don't you come in my house, you better just drive by, or don't you this, don't you that, or other. It is amazing the confusion that the enemy has brought upon our families and in our land right now over certain things. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But I find that we're distanced from one another. And it's interesting because families, especially in my community in which I serve in, families already eroding. And now you have further erosion. Can't say hello to grandma, can't say hello to this. So don't be cussing nobody out, fighting nobody, asking folks, are they vaccinated? The main thing, that's a whole challenge. Well, let's get into some things that I got here. I got some news from the continent of Africa, news from Europe, news from America, news from different places around the world. And I think I'm going to start in Egypt. In Egypt, this comes from the Christian Post. You know, I get Christian news from the Christian Post and a few other news networks. But I go to the Christian Post. I love the Christian Post. I love some other news networks. And in Egypt, Christian students in Egypt were beaten at a school ordered by teachers to remove all jewelry bearing a cross, you know, a cross symbolizing the cross on which Jesus was crucified on. And so Coptic Christians, you do know that Christianity was prominent on the continent of Africa, especially in the Horn of Africa, in this region of Africa, and then what missionaries went and spread through to Europe. And these Coptic Christians who are first century, their roots of their church goes back to the first century. They stopped counting generations. You know, people say I'm third, fourth generation in a denomination. They go back to original Christianity. These Coptic students at elementary and middle school in Egypt's Minya Governante, I believe that's how you pronounce it, were beaten up by teachers and students. Teachers started beating the students. First, they threatened them to take off anything that shows any Christianity, even though Coptic Christians have been in Egypt since forever. And some students were bold enough to say, I'm not taking it off. I'm not taking it off. At that point, the teachers started beating the students and then ordered other students to beat them to take off the crosses. And parents are in an uproar, and there's a huge uproar about what's happening in Egypt. And this underscores the fact that since lockdowns and things of that sort, persecution against Christians have ratcheted up to a higher level than we've seen in recent times. Even in India, there consistently is fights against, and I know many of you are in India and at that part of Asia, there's consistently more and more discrimination against Christians. And so this is something to pray for. These students in Egypt who are feel like it's okay for them to show their faith. It has never been a problem, but now this is a huge problem that they're facing in Egypt. I also, speaking of problems, all across Europe right now, there are protests and basically, well, I guess we don't use the term riots unless it's, unless we're told to. I'm going to leave it at that. But there are protests as well as there are riots. I'm going to use the term. There are riots, people burning down buildings and doing all this against lockdowns and vaccine mandates all across Europe. When I say all across Europe, I am not exaggerating. Looking here now at the picture of people with fireworks and flares and all these other things, the protesters took to the streets in several European countries over the weekend, this past weekend, to demonstrate against COVID-19 vaccine mandates after the EU governments started to ramp up restrictions in recent days. In Austria, tens of thousands of people protest in Vienna, Austria is, and another city and a couple other cities, and they protested. And the lockdowns which follow, there's a new surge in COVID-19 cases, they say, since they just had lockdowns, which most experts are saying lockdowns don't help against the spread of COVID. I'll just continue to look at what's happening here. And these lockdowns will start on the 22nd, which is today. And so these lockdowns were slated for Monday, which is today. And so people were protesting in the streets. The Austrian government said that it will make it mandatory for everyone starting on February the 1st to be vaccinated. And the only way you can leave your house in Austria is if you're going to the doctor, if you're buying groceries, or if you're exercising. Other than that, you must be in the house, and it's a strong, harsh lockdown. And so many people were upset there, but not only there, and they're decrying that there are totalitarian measures that are being pushed in Austria, and many of these people know this from the past. There was also police injured in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, at least 40 people were detained and were arrested in 3 of the country's provinces during protests just this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And the Dutch authorities used water cannons and dogs. They let the dogs out on the folks, and mounted police to stop individuals who set fires and threw fireworks at the officers. The protests were sparked by opposition to the government plans to restrict the use of passports, COVID passports. You can't move unless you have a passport, and vaccine passports, by the way, in the Netherlands. And they are now saying that the only people that can carry passports are people who have had COVID and they can show that they've had COVID and they have the antibodies, or those who have the vaccine. But if you test negative, the passport is still not good enough. You got to get the medicine that they have prescribed from these companies that have produced the medicine. And so I don't use the term vaccine because it's not a vaccine, but that's a whole nother thing, and I won't go into that right now. And so that whole thing in the Netherlands is a huge thing that's going on because people are protesting. You cannot move without walking papers, without a passport in your own city, and people are going berserk about that. Dutch officials also reimposed lockdowns starting the previous weekend on the 12th. And for 3 weeks, authorities again claimed that such moves would slow the spread of the virus. All those studies, as show that hasn't worked. People want to live. And now it's also protests this past weekend. And in addition to Austria and the Netherlands, there were protests in Ireland, Croatia, France, and the UK. And the French island territory, which is called Guadeloupe, where demonstrators set police cars on fire and created road blockades. So that's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, Ireland, Croatia, France, the UK, Guadeloupe, Austria, and the Netherlands, 7 countries throughout Europe, which were just in turmoil this weekend over what they feel is government overreach and due to mandates by the government, which they feel is overreaching. And this is what's going on around the world. So not only do you have the thing with Christianity, but you have this in Europe that's happening in all of these countries. And they feel that they're being locked down. Meanwhile, just last week, as a matter of fact, not even last week, just this weekend, as a matter of fact, the chief public health officer in the United States, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who was already in trouble last week. People wanted him fired because of torturing dogs. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not about to talk about them torturing dogs. We won't get into Dr. Fauci with that, but Dr. Fauci and the others are looking at changing the definition of fully vaccinated. So if you have gotten whatever they told you to get, you've gotten the medicine that they told you to get from the 3 companies that we're supposed to get it from, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna in the United States, AstraZeneca, and other companies outside the United States. If you've gotten that and you've done what you were told, soon it's possible, they say, they're looking at it, and in some states it's already becoming the law that if you do not get an additional dose of the vaccination or of the medicine that they have offered, because the medicine loses its ability to work after 6 months. Thank God my measles, mumps, and rubella is still working from when I was 5. Thank God my yellow fever worked for 10 years. But if this doesn't work after 6 months, there are people recommended that you continue to get the medication, and if you don't get it, it could go in perpetuity. They didn't say that, but they did say they will change the definition of if you're fully vaccinated or not, or if you're fully in compliance. That's a possibility, and it's already changing in some states. In New Mexico, the governor of New Mexico has already basically made it a mandate that if you have not gotten a 3rd dose of the medication, you're not fully vaccinated, which means that that's a real challenge. And so Dr. Fauci is saying that is a possibility. Now, the interesting thing is I saw that the governor of, I just saw in the news a while ago, 2 weeks ago, the governor of Florida, what is his name, DeSantis, had said that this was a possibility, and the fact checkers, whoever that is, we never know who they are, said that was fake news. And now in the same newspaper, they're in the Independent, that is, they're reporting this as a fact now, as news. So it's interesting that the same news people that say something is fake news and they fact check it, within 2 weeks come back and say this is the news. It's just really interesting. So no comment here except for I believe this, wherever you stand, I believe our over-reliance on pharmaceutical companies is abhorrible. And this is not just starting today. This is going back, and I don't have to mention no Tuskegee or anything of that sort, but we must be very careful and prayerful of our over-reliance of these pharmaceutical companies that really have no cure for things and are imposing. There's some things that's coming under it. As a matter of fact, I just saw also, I'm just kicking to you the news, what's going on, so you know how to pray. Kyle Rittenhouse, I'll come to that maybe later if I had a time. The FDA, there's a group of doctors who went to the FDA, and that's in the United States, the Federal Drug Administration. I believe I said that right. Food and Drug, there we go. Food and Drug Administration. They license everything that is acceptable, whether food and drugs. They license everything. Well, there are several doctors last week, a group of doctors that made a request from a Freedom of Information request, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, to find out what was the science behind the acceptance of the medication that is now being accepted, to being given to people. And these group of doctors, they're called the Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency. So these are public health and medical professionals. The group called PHMPT is a group of doctors and scientists, including many top epidemiologists from Yale School of Public Health, Harvey Rice from Yale School of Public Health. So these are public health scientists who are asking, they filed a lawsuit after the FDA denied their request to expedite the release of their records of what is the efficacy and what is the process of accepting the medications that are now being given around the country. The FDA didn't want to give it. And finally, they said there's over almost 400,000 pages of information, and it's going to take a long time to get it out to you. We'll give you 500 pages a month. And in order to do that, it would take 55 years for you to know exactly what decision they made to give this medication, even though they made a decision in 108 days over those almost 400,000 pages of paper. What am I saying to you? I'm just telling you what's in the news. You think for yourself and just see what's happening around the news. So there's a lot that's going on in the news. So when the doctors and medical health and epidemiologists and public health professionals are asking what's going on, they're saying, we can't let you know until 55 years from now. Now, I'm not sure about how old you are. I know I got a lot of young people that are watching. But 55 years from now, if Jesus did not return, trust me, I will not be finding out what's in those documents. And so I think that's the purpose. And so we got to be very prayerful and careful. I don't know what your decision is, but I think that as people of God, we are in the last of the last days. And why am I mentioning these things that's going on in the news? Because there's a lot of people who are looking and they smell rats in a lot of different ways. I've been talking a lot in my church, more so than here on Wake Up Monday, because, you know, I've been called and threatened by people that you better not talk on these type of things. And I just feel like I'm not talking about it. I'm just reading what's in the news. Now, many people only look at one or two outlets of news and see, but I think that as people of God, if you're going to be prayerful, if you're going to seek God, if you're going to seek God for decisions, you need to know what's going on in the spiritual realm around you and know how to pray, and then ask God to give you wisdom and guidance, regardless of what you think of the science, even though the scientists don't know everything that's happening, because scientists that disagree with other scientists or come with with their science, find something else, their silence. Regardless of what you think of science right now, what is happening from totalitarian authoritarianism, which those people in Europe are seeing and many people in America are seeing, overreach by governments, overreach by politicians who are politicizing things, it causes great concern. It causes huge concern in these last days. It causes huge concerns when especially there are side issues that are happening around us that cause people to get distracted and their eye off the ball. What's happening in the school districts? I told you what was happening in Loudoun County and other places like that. What's happening around us causes grave danger. And my people, you know, I quote Hosea 4:6 all the time. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because we have rejected knowledge. He will reject us as being priests unto him, and our children reject us and our children. I think it's very important. And there's so much more in the news that we can see when we begin to look beyond just sitting down watching CNN, which we know lie, just watching Fox News, which we know lie, but begin to start looking and seeing. And something can be a conspiracy theory next week, a conspiracy theory last week. That's a conspiracy theory. Don't talk about that. And then the following week is out as a fact, and we forgot the previous week when it was dispelled as some kind of crazy whack thing. I think as people of God, we must be very careful what we do and how we serve in our churches. I think my fervor for medication, whether it's COVID medication, whether it's blood pressure medication, remember, you do know the top pharmaceutical companies have consistently, people talk about going back to the Tuskegee experiment, that the thief who comes not but to steal, kill, and to destroy. We see that in our recent history, in recent days. Johnson & Johnson, who was giving us talcum powder that they knew was killing and giving cancer, especially to women, and giving cancer to individuals. We cannot have our hope and our trust in the medicine of individuals. They told us, the world told us that if you take certain medications, you won't die. But we see people dying. We see things that are happening. But the wonderful thing is that as the people of God, we are not afraid to die. We're not afraid to die. Death, the threat of death does not shake us. That's why I started with those young people in in Egypt. That's why I can continue to talk about those young people in Nigeria and the cries of what's happening in Nigeria, and the spread of radicalism, if you will, the spread of anti-Christism across the continent of Africa, the spread of violence. I mean, we talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, white boy went to protect whatever, shot folks. There's folks getting off all day, every day, for murder, because it's not just about white supremacy and I should have the right to kill others like somebody else has. I'm appalled that people are, yes, we should mourn the fact that this young boy killed others. Why was this boy in the town and all this other? I don't agree with it either. But I think what we should mourn the fact is that death and mayhem and murder is celebrated. Our children are being exposed to things like the Squid Games. Squid Games, is that what it's called? The Squid Games, that's what it's called? Yeah. Sounds weird just coming out of my mouth because I don't say it. Where it celebrates the killing of people for sport to make money, and people begin to kill each other for money. And then we wonder why the young Dolph murder is so sensationalized. We wonder why the murder rates in St. Louis or Memphis or Detroit or Atlanta or Birmingham, Alabama or Los Angeles is so high. It's not just black kids, white kids, Latino, Asians, natives around the world. There's a spirit that is spreading of murder from the top to the bottom. And what happens is we can get our eyes off the ball and begin to miss what is happening right before us in these last days, that the enemy is busy. And what has happened is that the church is cowering. While the church is still talking about CDC regulations, the world is boldly doing whatever they want to do until they want to do something else. And so I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I have not. Many people say, Mathews said this about getting the shot and getting this and getting that. I don't ask you about your private health decisions. I do know one thing, that if people really cared about us, being healthy, they would ban the sugar and the high fructose corn syrup and all them pork chops and all that hog mogs and chitlins that's killing us way more than anything. Heart disease, kidney disease, hypertension that's destroying so many lives right now. And so I'm worried when Warren Buffett and Bill Gates is really concerned about us. There is a population control agenda at force. There is a destruction agenda at force, and it's so much bigger than some white folks versus some black folks. There are black people on the destruction side, professional, educated, uneducated, on the side of those who are wicked. It's not about just black and white. There is good and evil. Choose life. You got good and evil. God said in Deuteronomy 30:15, I have given you life and good, death and evil. Choose life. Choose the life. It is so small for us to just say, oh, white supremacy is everything. And everything is white supremacy. So if you can get rid of white supremacy, do you really think that if you got rid of that, everything is going to be for? If you really think that if everybody got wealth distribution, we just need everybody to get money, and everybody got to get money around the world. And if everybody had $1 million, we just tried that experiment. People got stimulus checks and then they lied and got more money. I know cats. I've met cats out here that have gotten over $50,000, $60,000 since COVID has hit, US dollars, and they're busted and broke even right now, still hustling hard, trying to make it because they tried to flip it on whatever they were flipping it on. They went flossing and getting whatever else. The answers are so complex, but yet so simple. In the beginning, man gave his dominion over to a demonic force, gave his dominion over to Satan with a promise to live forever, with a promise to have everything, with a promise to have knowledge and wisdom. And the scripture says that even now people are ever learning but never coming to the promise of the truth. We think we can live forever and our bodies are deteriorating. We've rejected God and thought God was jealous of us, trying to take away our fun, take away our enjoyment, wouldn't allow us to eat the fruit in the middle of the garden, have isolated and abandoned us. And look where it has gotten us. It's gotten more and more curse upon us. And now we've become so dulled against it because we've been so selfish. We've been so thinking God was the genie in a bottle to just do what we wanted him to do, and he didn't do it. And we weren't responsible for the things that we should have been doing. And now we're angry at God, and now we're being exposed in this time. It's time for the church to galvanize and to say, this is the last, we're in the last quarter, we're in the last minutes, 2-minute drill of the last quarter. Jesus is soon to come back. Biblical prophecy is laying out beyond comprehension. I could go through biblical prophecy right now, whether it's the reunification of Europe, whether it's the one world government, whether it's the currency, whether it's totalitarian big brotherism, whether it's control, whether it's the spreading of the gospel, whatever it may be. We see biblical prophecy accelerating at a rate beyond what we've ever seen in time. And we are privileged, my brothers and sisters, to be alive during this time. I can't go out in this time. I can't go out in the last days, the last of the last days, trying to fit in with the world. I can't go out cowering in fear, afraid to die. You do know that nobody gets off this rock called earth alive. You're either going to be caught up or you're going to die. I'm going to die. Maybe tonight, maybe before I finish this, I'm going to die. You're going to die. But the beautiful thing is that death is not our enemy. I'm not afraid to die because it is also, first of all, I can't die. You can't die before your time. Oh, no, because it's once appointed, according to Hebrews chapter 9, once appointed for us to die. And after that death is the judgment. And when you die a good death, when you die serving God, that judgment, it won't be the white throne judgment where you go into eternal punishment. We will go to the judgment seat of Christ and receive our eternal rewards. I've been saying this now since 2016. I've been saying this same thing, and there are people who don't want to get it. You're intelligent. You've been in school. You can read books. You can read any book but the Bible. You can read W.E. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Frantz Fanon. You can read all those books over and over again, but the Bible gets boring because your appetite has changed, and the enemy has used that as a distraction. So I say to you, there's so much that's happening. There's so much that's going on. I'm not even going to read any more news articles. I want to stop there, and I want to pray for you. Because my brothers and sisters, I don't care what age category you're in. I don't care what your racial classification is. I don't care where your geographical location is on this earth. The earth is spiraling in chaos. There's chaos. I went to the grocery store today. Let me just tell you something. I bought food, preparing for our family. We're going to have a family feast with the family. And I bought food a month and a half ago. I bought some things. The same thing that I bought a month and a half ago was 60% more. The exact same thing at the exact same store. I couldn't believe it. They said you can only buy one turkey you can only buy a turkey if you spend $25 in the store. This turkey on sale, if you don't spend $25, you can't get it. What am I saying to you? Things are changing fast, shifting hard. And that's not a political party thing. It's not a color thing. Those are all distractions. Those are all getting your eyes off the ball that something is happening and it's following the script that we see in Daniel and Amos and in Ezekiel and in Revelation and in Matthew throughout the entire Bible from beginning to end. I got to end here. I want to pray for you now. Notice I read the news. I shared what's happening in the news. I'm not in the business of telling you what to think. All I'm saying is think. The problem is that there's so many people who don't think. And I've learned not to think before I ask God to help to illuminate my mind and thoughts. That he will give me divine revelation. That he will give us revelation to see beyond what you see. And that he will give you divine discernment. And I've been quoting this a while. Discernment is not only the difference, knowing the difference between right and wrong. This is what C.S. Lewis said, but it's knowing the difference between right and almost right. There are some things that almost sound right, but true divine discernment will show you, no, that's not all the way right. I look at our young people, I'm emboldened. I look at people who said to me, I have convictions, and if I lose my job, I lose my job. I can't do, if I'm going to lose my job, I got to do whatever they say. What are you talking about? Since when it's your job or where you fit in or what's legal? Because what's legal is not what guides the saints. Don't give me some crackpot exegesis of Romans 13. No, because remember when he was writing the book of Romans, the apostle was in prison for doing the things that he shouldn't have done. That was illegal according to the government. Don't give me that it don't matter. At some point, it don't matter if I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my house, all for the sake of Christ. But somehow the enemy has crept in with doctrines of demons to make us think that we can quantify our relationship with God by these worldly things that we can show. And the scripture says we love mother, father, houses, and land more than we love him. We love our lives, we will lose our lives. We lose our life for him, we will gain eternal life. And this is my struggle. I told you last week, I came to you last week in all humility. There's so many people who are losing sight. So many people are losing. I pray for you that you can be strengthened. There's temptation. There's temptation to be discouraged, to give up, temptation to sin, temptation to do all other things because the enemy is trying to get as many people he can to fall before the end. He knows, according to Revelation chapter 12, verse 10, 11, he knows that his time is short. He knows that the time is short, and he is working as hard as he can to demolish and destroy. I want to encourage you Bereans. You Bereans, we've been together a long time. We've been together since 2016. Bianca, you started this revolution. I want to encourage you Bereans. I want to encourage you. Yes, Deborah Victorious Mitchell, this is a prelude to the mark of the beast. There's no other way to see this. Do I believe that the medication that they're giving people is the mark of the beast? I don't. But I believe that they're preconditioning and preparing us for the mark of the beast. When people are going to turn in other folks because they're enemies of the state. When people are when you won't be able to buy or sell, you won't be able to move without certain things. You won't be able to do what you won't have your freedoms. I'm surprised at how many people say, what they talking about freedoms, that's a white issue. What? When did talking about freedom become a white issue to children of slaves? When did that become an issue that you're not concerned about? But forget about being children of slaves. That's irrelevant. When did freedom, God who came that we might be free and live life abundant? No, it is a prelude. We see it. We see the condition. We see the preparation. It won't be long before I won't be able to do this, what I'm doing now. It won't be long before I won't be able to share with you. But I say to you now, my brothers and sisters, stand strong in the faith and endure hardness as good soldiers. Endure hardness as good soldiers. It's not just about this, that. Just look at what's happening around. Look at the laws that are being pressed. Look at the things. Look at the move for socialism and communism. There has never been a socialist or a communist state that tolerated our king, because socialism and communism cannot have another king. And so our king has to be eliminated under socialism and communism. That's just a fact. You intelligent people who think I'm wrong and say, but socialism will help the poor, socialism will do this. There's always great promises. Yeah, you show me one society where it was socialist or communist that allowed the free exercise of the worship of our king. You can't show me one that allowed it to flourish. Now, you can. China right now is communist. The Chinese Communist Party right now, they are even coming down on the government sanctioned churches. They have to mention the heroes of their country as ones who enabled Jesus. Just look up the facts. So, Father, I bless you. I praise you. I give you glory and honor. I thank you for the Bereans of Wake Up Monday. I thank you for those who are here. Father, there's so many distractions inside the church, outside the church, inside our homes, outside our homes, inside our government, outside it. There are distractions everywhere, but I rebuke demonic distractions. I rebuke things that are not like you. And Father, my taste, my tolerance for things that are not like you. Help us to keep a high tolerance, a high aversion to foolishness. Give us a high aversion to doctrines of demons, and give us a thirst, a hunger and thirst for your word and your way. Give us to look to the left or the right. Father, give us I rebuke fear. I rebuke doubt. I rebuke shame. I rebuke collusion with the new world order, with the divine, with with the demonic Luciferian system, this new world order system that is pushing through so many things. I rebuke it even right now in the name of Jesus. I give you glory, praise, and honor. And it is so in Jesus' name. Hallelujah. Now listen, people of God, I'm going to go. I prayed for you. I prayed for you. If we perish, we perish. I'm preparing a series. You'll hear about it. It's entitled Last Call. Last Call. It's an 8-week series I'll be preaching in my church December and January on how we see we're at the last call. I hope I make it to even start to preach it, because right now is November the 22nd. I'm looking to preach it starting first Sunday of December, and I'll preach it every Sunday December, every Sunday in January. And I believe that this is the last call. It's kind of like last call at the airport, last call at the restaurant, at the bar, wherever. This is it. Get it now. Last call for the dance, whatever. Get it now or it's over. That's where I believe we are. When will that happen? I don't know. No man knows the day or the time. But I'll tell you what, it has never been clearer than it is now. Don't get caught on the narratives that the enemy wants you to see. Transcend it. Look at it from a kingdom perspective, because when you look at it from a kingdom perspective, when we see kingdom perspective, he takes care of things, the stratification of class, stratification of race, of sexuality. All of that falls into his kingdom. See, when you get kingdom order, then you don't have to worry about, but what about racism? When you got kingdom order, you ain't gonna have no racism. The problem is that the church has gotten their eyes off the order, and now they're picking here. They got an intersectionality checklist instead of looking and saying, "Thy kingdom come as it is in heaven, as it on." You think there's racism in heaven? You think there's misogynistic behavior in heaven? Do you think there's ageism in heaven? No, none of that. You think there's colorism in heaven? You know, some of y'all families are split by complexion. You think that's in heaven? No. You think there's geographic turf wars like Young Dolph or Yo Gotti in heaven? No. You think there's gangs in heaven? East side, west side, north side, south side? No. So when his kingdom it becomes preeminent, then everything else falls into place. Bless you, my brothers and sisters. Once again, it's been Wake Up Monday. I just want to share this with you, young or old. I need you to share this with others, because we need to provoke others to good works.